my name is Justine Johnson. I'm 35 years old. I've lived in the Northern Territory my whole life. I'm not appearing for any company. I'm here for my children. I have 4 children. We've lived in Humpty Doo for 14 years and we do rely on bore water there. I had a lot more that I wanted to say, but I feel like so much has already been covered of what I had, so I'm going to just try and cover other stuff because you've already answered some of my questions. I really love the Territory lifestyle. At the moment, the pristine waterways, I even love crocodiles, so I don't claim that I had that danger. There's so much to enjoy between fishing, hunting, bird life. Like, the birds are incredible. They're a bit of a passion of mine. I love swimming. I love walking amongst the gorges. I am disappointed about what's happening in Katherine. I understand that's separate to this as well. But I do love the fact that in general, apart from there, we don't have the threat of contaminants. And I can feel quite safe with my children going in all of those areas. We go camping a lot too. I would actually like to see a complete ban on unconventional hydraulic fracturing across the Northern Territory because I still don't believe there's enough evidence to show that it can be done safely. And what I'm seeing at the moment come from Queensland is really scaring me because I've read articles about cows dying, about health impacts with respiratory diseases, or not so much diseases, but bear with me, I'm really nervous.
No, you're doing...
Stay-at-home mum, the best I do is talking in front of playgroup.
You're doing terrifically. Just treat us like you would your children and you'll be fine.
Oh, you might not want that.
Say something about us.
I do have some questions though. I understand if you can't answer them. But I'm just wondering why in the inquiry phase, before the report was actually handed down, were you not able to actually get a list of the chemicals from the gas companies? Because I do feel that I'd feel more comfortable with the recommendations if we knew what we were actually dealing with. Is that not...
They're in the report?
The chemicals are?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I actually only got a chance to read the summary because Kezia couldn't get the full copy to me till the 12th. 4 kids, school holidays, didn't read the full report. So... and where is that, in the water section or? Yeah. Okay, all right.
But I might say, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I might say that's particularly focused on the fracking chemicals, not on the ones that are coming back from the shale.
Yes, so not on the naturally occurring stuff.
But we do have information on that. It's just not in the report at the moment.
Okay, I'll read chapter 7, I believe.
7, chapter 7. Bearing in mind this is a draft report.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of these consultations is to get your feedback.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think, and the report will undoubtedly alter.
Amended.
Yeah, it'll be amended between now and the final report.
Well, that's good to hear. I have to say, after reading the summary, I was surprised that in the press conference you said that if the recommendations were adopted in full, that fracking could be done safely. And I found that hard to understand, just given what I read in there. There was so much uncertainty and a lacking of baseline testing. So that's where I do feel that the public felt that you were more for it. And that's the impression I was given. Just saying my feelings here. And speaking with friends, they felt the same way. So it's not just me that feels that way. And with regard to some things that were said today as well about the public not really being aware of what fracking is, there's a lot of confusion about the type of fracking that's being done. So people think, fracking's been around for 50 years, it's fine. But from everything I've read, hydraulic horizontal fracturing is only about 10 to 12 years old. Is that right?
A bit longer.
Yeah, because I just feel that's quite young for an industry, and for what I've read on them, there's enough data to show that it's not safe anyway. And I mean, I'm not a scientist, but that's just how I feel. And reading about the naturally occurring radioactive materials were actually enough to make me cringe. And that's where I really, really wish that it could just be left right down there, trapped under the clay, where I believe it's safe right now. Alarm to cook dinner, that one. Sorry, doesn't have silent for that. water, kids, and dinner. Oh, okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I would prefer to see that dangerous waste left below. How can a well actually be mitigated when it is actually leaking? And then what are the ramifications long term? Because plugging it with concrete doesn't last forever either. So I am concerned that even, like, it's way, way, way down there where we can't actually see, is there a way of putting in place something, I don't know, wires or something to show when something's still going wrong, that, hey, it's being closed up after we finish all our fracking and we've got a problem, we need to do some fixing on that. Because those aquifers are still going to be used for consumption, so that's a concern of mine because it is so far down. And having a husband who works in mining and seeing what they do, you can see that. I can't see what's going on down below, and that really scares me. No, that's covered. Water extraction. Now, here where I live, I've seen bores going dry, not this current season, but the previous dry season, bores were going dry because we're running out of water in the aquifers because water's actually being extracted to supply town as well. And I just wondered, where you had said there wasn't enough data to show recharge on that Beetaloo Basin, is it possible to use data from that to show how much water Darwin's actually using, how well it's recharging? Because I tried to find data on how much water Darwin's using, but I can't. So either I'm not typing in the right Google thing, but I'd really like to see that because, you know, if you've got some sort of data, you can show how well it is going. I mean, we've all been flooded recently. You've seen that?
Badly.
Yeah. Yes. So, yeah. There's plenty of alternatives. I don't think we even need to frack. If it's gas you want, can we not just get it offshore? I know it's more expensive, but it's, you know, obviously more environmentally safer to go offshore. So I think, you know, we could spend the next few years looking at baseline testing, checking the aquifers and how well they do recharge, see what continues to happen in Queensland before, you know, the government decides to make a decision. And renewable energy, that's been said as well. It is on the increase, and I do believe renewable energy will be the next revolution. There's so much new technology around it that it's madness not to utilise it, especially when we're talking chemicals. My daughter's got epilepsy. No one knows why she's got epilepsy. The doctors cannot tell me. Now, we live in an environment where slowly more and more chemicals are being used. I've gone organic. Many of my friends have. We don't use chemicals in our home now to clean. I use alternatives, microfibres and vinegar, which I know is really not good for the nose though. You've still got to be careful with it. And I just, you know, if you want to eat organic food, you really don't want to be doing fracking because you've got too many chemicals that are going to end up in the environment where they're going to be grown. Water is for life. Yeah? Yeah, it is. And then we've got, you know, up here, barramundi farms, cattle farms, pastoralists, fishing and tourism. These are all industries that are the backbone of the territory and people who have worked really hard to make the territory where it is now. The tourism industry alone has over 16,000 employees. I would hate to see them at risk just for a little bit of gas that we can be getting elsewhere, and we have alternatives to this. It honestly makes no sense in my head. So it's unfair to put those risks for those jobs, for temporary jobs, for fracking, which causes permanent damage. So the 115 risks are real, but I also believe prevention before medicine. So I don't know how we can do it in a safe way, but I would like to see some more tightened regulation rather than just recommendations. Obviously, all you can hand down is recommendations. That's my concern, is then the government turns around and what do they choose to adopt from those? And I just still don't feel that's quite enough. Where are we? I am concerned about little animals. When you've got evaporative dams that are full of chemicals and the animals, there's no way to keep the animals out of them, especially birds. And birds flying around those areas where it's quite arid, there's not water all year round everywhere like it is at the moment. At the moment, pretty safe. But come dry season, when you've got smaller sources of water, they're going to go to those, they're going to drink, they're going to die. And we've got threatened species. I can send them to you as well if you want. If you do want a list of those threatened species in that Beetaloo area.
Absolutely, thank you, yes, that would be good.
But just a couple that I wrote down today. Hang on. So we've got princess parrots, northern quoll, floodplains monitor, and there's heaps more. But they were a few that drew my attention because the northern quoll's already under threat here still because of cane toads, that's right. So it is sad. But the parrots as well, they're probably the most vulnerable, parrots, frogs, any sort of reptile, because with frogs, their skin, you can't even touch a frog without hurting it really. Anyone who handles frogs would either be wearing gloves or, as myself and my kids, we do wash our hands. We've watched a program on ABC and it's all they breathe through their skin, so it's a real risk for them. So I do worry about things like that, and even the flaring when that occurs. I don't even want to get to that stage though, so I did want to focus on the beginning that this is, immediately it's not going to be good for any of those little critters that right now, myself and my 4 children and my husband, that's what we go to see. I am forever. We are wandering around and looking at every little living thing, even moss. There's something in everything out there, and growing up on it, I want to see it that way. I don't want to stand on Ayers Rock and see a flare. I don't want to fly over places that I've flown over right now and see gas fields. I think it looks disgusting. It's like the cancer of the earth. So I really don't want it to happen. I don't know what I can say to stop it, but I really don't think that what they're wanting to extract and get from it is enough to substantiate what you're going to leave behind. And when this is done and dusted, my youngest child won't even be 30. If we're looking at, a 25, 30 year, yeah. And that's what I'm basing it on. So it'd be a shame to see all that damage when he's my age. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I want to keep it beautiful.
I've got a question.
Yes.
You said you wanted to see tightened recommendations.
Yes.
What did you have in mind? Can you give me some examples?
Oh, look, when you, in the report, summary.
That's all right. It's more based on what's acceptable, acceptable levels. See, at the moment, there's no chemicals in the water, and it concerns me when I read an acceptable level, because with the PFAS, this is how I'm understanding it, is that it got to a level that wasn't acceptable before they even told the public. So people were already drinking and being exposed. So let me see if I can find an example. That's good. What I might do
got a million things highlighted, is can I send you an email
Absolutely.
with the point
Yeah, absolutely.
and what I'd like to see?
Yeah, no, we would absolutely welcome that.
Because, it is more what I'm reading are recommendations of monitoring rather than seeing actual mitigation. And I want to see how things will get fixed when it happens, as opposed to just, we're going to ask you to employ someone to monitor the water, and if it leaks, we'll just make sure it's at a safe level. Hang on, what's going to happen to mitigate that leak? You know, things like that. So, but I'm assuming the email address is still the same as...
Yes.
Yeah. And would I address it to you or just the inquiry
Just the
panel?
inquiry. Just the inquiry, that's fine.
And I'll refer to some specifics.
That would be, we would actually really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Certainly, in fact, you've raised an issue that we keep raising with the gas companies that come here, which is, well, what happens if something does go wrong? What are you going to do to fix it? How will you fix it?
Yeah.
To which the answer is usually, but we'll have all these wonderful measures in place to ensure nothing does go wrong, in which case we then ask the question again, well, let's just assume that something has gone wrong. What are you going to do to fix it? So it is I think it's a really important question, which, with great respect to those that we've heard from, by way of the gas companies, hasn't yet been satisfactorily answered with the level of detail we'd like. So it's a good point.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. But yeah, awesome.
All right, thank you very much. We look forward to
Thank
that,
I'll
those further points. And that now concludes the first day of the public hearings in Darwin. Thank you.